The first frost came in October. By dawn, the old farmhouse porch was silver with ice, but the gray tabby was already there, curled tight in the corner where the wind didn't reach. She'd been sleeping there for months, every night, every morning. Inside, Ruth watched through the kitchen window, 78 years old, hands wrapped around cooling coffee. The cat never meowed, never scratched at the door, just slept, waited, left at sunrise. Ruth had stopped asking why. The farm felt too big now, too quiet. Just her, the empty fields, and the cat that wouldn't leave her porch. Ruth's husband died 3 years ago, farming accident, gone in an instant. Their son moved to the city decades ago, calls on holidays, never visits. The farmhouse had been full once, laughter at the dinner table, boots by the door, radio playing while they worked. Now it was just silence and dust. Ruth still cooked breakfast for 2 sometimes, caught herself setting his plate, put it back with shaking hands. She'd stopped maintaining the farm, sold the livestock, let the fields go fallow. What was the point? She was too old, too tired, too alone. The neighbors checked on her once a month, brought groceries, asked if she needed anything. She always said no. Her days had become identical. Wake at 5, coffee, stare out the window, move from room to empty room, sleep alone in a bed too big. She'd stopped going to church, stopped answering most calls. The world had moved on without her. She wasn't living, just existing, watching seasons change through glass. Some mornings she forgot what her own voice sounded like. The silence pressed down like winter snow, heavy, cold, endless. She'd become a ghost in her own home. The cat had no name, no collar, no home anyone knew of. She'd appeared in late spring, gray American shorthair with white paws and a notched ear, some old injury. She was young, maybe 2 years old, but wary, kept her distance from everything. Someone must have dumped her on the rural road. Happened all the time out here. City people thought country cats could survive on their own. Most didn't. She was thin, coat dull, moved carefully like the world had taught her to expect pain. The farm had mice in the barn. She hunted there during the day, drank from the cattle trough that still held rainwater. But every night she returned to Ruth's porch. Not the barn, not the shed, the porch. She'd circle 3 times, then curl up in the corner. Same spot, every single night. Ruth would watch from inside, sometimes put a hand against the window where the cat slept on the other side. Close, but a wall of glass between them. The cat never asked for more, never demanded entry, just chose that porch, chose that spot, like she was keeping watch over something, or someone. The first real cold snap came in November. Ruth woke to find the cat shivering on the porch. Frost covered her gray fur like powder. Ruth stood at the door, hand on the knob. The cat looked up, green eyes tired, but she didn't move toward the door. "You'll freeze out here," Ruth said through the glass. The cat blinked slowly. Ruth opened the door, just a crack. Cold air rushed in. The cat stood, limped slightly, paw must be cold, but didn't approach. They stared at each other, 3 feet apart. I can't," Ruth's voice broke. The cat sat down, waiting, not pushing. Ruth closed the door, went to the kitchen, found an old blanket, opened the door again, and set it on the porch. "That's all I can do," she whispered. The cat sniffed it, circled, settled on top. Ruth went back inside. But she didn't sleep that night, just sat by the window, watching the small gray shape breathing in the cold. The next morning, Ruth left food, leftover chicken on a small plate. She set it by the blanket and went back inside quickly. The cat ate slowly, carefully, then returned to her corner. Ruth did it again the next day, and the next. It became routine. Morning food, fresh water. The cat would wait until Ruth closed the door before approaching. 2 weeks passed. Ruth started talking through the window. "Getting colder, you should find a real home." The cat's ears would turn toward her voice. Ruth found herself buying cat food at the store. The cashier raised an eyebrow. "Didn't know you had a cat, Ruth." "I don't," Ruth said quickly. "Just feeding a stray." But she bought a better blanket, too. Warmer, waterproof. 3 weeks in, the temperatures dropped to freezing. Ruth watched the cat curl tighter, shivering even with the blanket. She paced her kitchen. This wasn't her responsibility. She couldn't take care of anything. She could barely take care of herself. But when evening came, she opened the door. "Just for tonight," she said firmly. "Too cold out here." The cat stood, hesitated at the threshold. Ruth stepped back. "Come on, then." The cat walked in slowly, stopped just inside, looked around the empty house. Ruth closed the door. The cat settled by the fireplace Ruth hadn't used in years. "Just tonight," Ruth repeated. But the next night was colder, and the night after that. The cat stayed. Ruth named her Frost because that's how they'd met. Week 4, Ruth's son called. "You sound different, Ma." Ruth looked at Frost, sleeping in a patch of sunlight. "I've got company now," she said softly. For the first time in years, her house didn't feel so empty. Frost slept in the living room at first, kept her distance, but slowly she moved closer. By the second week, she was sleeping at the foot of Ruth's bed. Ruth started waking up easier, something warm and alive nearby. She opened curtains she'd kept closed for years. Frost liked watching birds through the window. "Gives us both something to do," Ruth murmured. She started cooking again, real meals. Frost would sit in the kitchen doorway, watching with patient green eyes. Ruth talked to her about the farm, her husband, the loneliness that had buried her alive. Frost never looked away, just listened. Ruth's hands stopped shaking when she stroked Frost's soft fur. The neighbors noticed. "Ruth, you look better." "Got a cat," she said simply. Her son visited for the first time in 2 years, stared at his mother laughing as Frost chased a piece of string. "Ma, I haven't seen you smile in—" "I know," Ruth said quietly. Frost curled up beside her. They'd both been alone in the cold. Not anymore. Winter's coldest night came in January. Ruth sat by the fire, Frost purring in her lap. She thought about the empty porch, the cat who'd refused to leave, the woman who'd been too afraid to let anyone in. "You knew, didn't you, that I needed you as much as you needed me?" Frost looked up with knowing eyes. Ruth's tears fell into gray fur. "Thank you for waiting," she said. Frost pressed her head against Ruth's chest. 2 souls, 1 porch, 1 winter. Both finally home. Spring came slowly to the farmhouse, but inside warmth had already returned. Ruth, Frost, together. Sometimes the ones who wait outside our walls are exactly who we need to let in.